So, how exactly does an AI go from being this super smart but totally isolated brain to a powerful partner that can actually reason with all of your company's data? Well, that's the story we're going to unpack today. We're diving into the evolution of a technology that makes all of this possible: retrieval augmented generation, or as you probably know it, RAG. We're going to trace this whole journey through four key chapters. We'll start in the early, kind of chaotic days, what we're calling the age of fragmentation. Then we'll get right into the great RAG debate, which, trust me, almost upended everything. From there, we'll see how a unifying infrastructure brought some much-needed order. And finally, we'll land where we are right now, in the dawn of agentic AI. All right, so first things first, what exactly is RAG? The easiest way to think about it is this. A standard AI model is like a brilliant brain that only knows what it learned in school, its original training data. RAG is the tech that gives that brain a live connection to a library, to the internet, to your company's private files. It connects the AI to fresh external information, so its answers are current, they're accurate, and really importantly, they're verifiable. Okay, let's rewind the clock a bit. Generative AI was taking off, it was incredibly powerful, but for businesses, it had this one huge problem. It was totally disconnected from their private data. This led to those infamous hallucinations, right? Where the AI would just confidently make stuff up. So the very first challenge was pretty simple. How in the world do you ground these powerful models in actual corporate truth? The first attempts to solve this were, well, they were a series of disconnected, but really crucial steps. First, generative AI was sort of bolted onto Vertex AI search. Then, a month later, Gemini 1.0 comes along and introduces a developer tool called the Semantic Retriever. You can see the pattern here, right? These were all individual components, not some grand unified system. But the goal was getting clearer and clearer. Find a way to plug the AI into reliable internal beta. And for developers at the time, this created a really clear fork in the road. You could either pick the easy-to-use black box solution that, just worked, or you could roll up your sleeves and build a super complex, totally custom pipeline from scratch to get maximum control. There really was no middle ground. So just as everyone was getting comfortable with this new RAG architecture, bam, a massive disruption hits. I'm talking a technological leap so significant, it made developers and strategists everywhere ask a very, very serious question about the future of this entire approach. And this was the disruptor, Gemini 1.5 Pro. Its killer feature? A 1 million token context window. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that meant you could suddenly feed thousands of pages of text, an entire novel, a massive technical manual, you name it, directly into the AI's prompt, all at once. The model's short-term memory became gigantic, literally overnight. And this, of course, immediately sparked the great debate. The question was simple. If you can just give the AI the entire library to read at once, why would you need a librarian, the RAG system, to go find specific books for it? It really seemed like this new context stuffing approach could make the whole idea of retrieval completely obsolete. But as it always is, the reality was a bit more nuanced. Sure, stuffing the entire context was incredibly accurate for finding that one specific needle in a haystack fact, but it was also incredibly slow. We're talking up to 45 seconds for a single query. RAG, on the other hand, was lightning fast, returning answers in about a second. And then, of course, there was the biggest factor of all: cost. And here was the knockout blow. For high-volume, repetitive questions, the RAG approach was found to be up to 1,250 times more cost-effective. It turns out, processing millions of tokens for every single little question was just completely unsustainable for most real-world applications. The takeaway was clear. RAG wasn't dead, not by a long shot. It was just getting started. So the debate didn't really produce a single winner. Instead, it forced the entire ecosystem to mature. The market realized it didn't need one or the other. It needed both approaches, and that led to a much more sophisticated and, thankfully, unified infrastructure. The key moment, really, was the launch of the Vertex AI RAG engine. This was the product that finally resolved all that tension. It didn't replace the older tools, it formalized a dual-path strategy, giving builders two clear, really powerful options to choose from. And this created this fantastic analogy that you hear all the time now: the car versus the chassis. Think of Vertex AI Search as the car. It's a turnkey application for business users who just want to get in and drive, no fuss. The new RAG engine, though, that's the chassis. It's a powerful API for AI engineers who want to build their own custom, high-performance vehicle from the ground up. This unified infrastructure also brought some seriously smart features to the table. With dynamic retrieval, the AI itself could decide if a search was even necessary, which saves a ton of time and money. A new high-fidelity mode ensured the AI would strictly stick to the facts, which is crucial for regulated industries like finance and legal. And hybrid search combined the best of old-school keywords with new semantic understanding for way more accurate results. And that brings us to the final, and honestly, the most exciting part of the story. With a mature infrastructure now in place, the focus shifted. It wasn't just about retrieving data anymore. It was about actively reasoning with it. The AI model was about to become a participant in the search process, not just a passive recipient. The catalyst for this big change was the arrival of the Gemini 2.0 and 2.5 models. They enabled what we now call agentic RAG. And this is a fundamental shift. We're moving from an AI that just summarizes facts to an AI that actively analyzes and, well, thinks for itself. So, how does this actually work? Well, instead of just taking a piece of text and summarizing it, the agentic model now operates in this intelligent loop. First, it formulates its own query. Then it analyzes the results. And this is the really critical part. If the information is incomplete, it can requery with different terms and keep trying until it has everything it needs to form a complete, well-reasoned answer. This shift is summed up perfectly here. The retriever is transitioning from a separate database component into a native tool used by the model itself, blurring the lines between memory, search, and reasoning. It's no longer just a separate database the AI calls upon. It's becoming part of the AI's own thinking process. This also means the very concept of truth has gotten more complex. Grounding isn't a one-size-fits-all thing anymore. An AI agent can now intelligently tap into different sources, depending on the task. The public web for general knowledge, private enterprise data for internal questions, real-time map data, or even a special, compliant version of the web for those regulated industries. So let's just recap that whole journey. We started with those early, fragmented tools for grounding. Then, that whole long context debate forced the industry to mature. This led to a unified infrastructure, which finally paved the way for the intelligent, agentic RAG we have today. What a ride. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. RAG didn't die in the face of giant context windows. It just grew up. It evolved from being a simple data fetcher into an intelligent, core component of the AI's own reasoning process. And that leaves us with the final, pretty fascinating question to think about. We've just seen this incredible evolution from just retrieving facts to actively reasoning with them. So if an AI can now strategize and search and synthesize information all on its own, what does that ultimately mean for the nature of knowledge itself and for our relationship with it? Something to chew on.